Welcome everyone to this afternoon's hearing. We are having a busy day in the House of Representatives with the consent of Mr. Gingrey and the Republican staff. We are proceeding without a Republican member present. My understanding is that Mr. Gingrey has an amendment on the floor right now, so will be joining us after his amendment has been presented and debated. It may not appear like it, but I am currently at a Foreign Affairs hearing. They are holding a vote, and if my vote proves to be decisive in an important matter, I will do my best imitation of the Vice President, and we will probably recess this. I will go over and vote and come back. But with those procedural introductory remarks, thank you all for being here. And I'm glad I'm here. I'm glad you're here. We are continuing a series of hearings on SBIR and STTR, and this is the second of those hearings as we prepare for reauthorizing both programs. In the first hearing, we heard from a number of non-governmental experts on the challenges to the program, potential opportunities, and how to best realize those opportunities, and tried to cull their thoughts as best the committee could to as to how the programs could be potentially improved. Today, we focus on the SBIR and STTR programs from the perspective of program managers, and in particular the program managers who represent the lion's share of SBIR and STTR funding. A lot has changed in the 25 years since the SBIR legislation was enacted. The size of the program has grown to well over $2 billion, probably approaching $3 billion. The last crisp numbers we have are from FY05. And also the cost of doing research has changed dramatically, and for the most part gone up dramatically. And the management of the program and data collection needs have become more urgent. And it is with that in mind that I think there's no better group of folks to learn from certain operational aspects of SBIR and STTR than the folks who are witnesses today. The witnesses we have before us today have many years of experience with the SBIR program and have seen it grown from a relatively small program to the largest government program which supports research and development at small companies. And what I'd like to do today is learn your thoughts, learn from your experience on how to make the federal government's development support operations more efficient and to maximize the benefits to the American public and return on their investment. And I want to do the best that we possibly can to ensure that we are on a path to success for as we authorize potentially this arena for the next 25 years. When Mr. Gingrey comes, I will interrupt your statements or your answers in order for him to make an opening statement if he so wishes. If there are other members who wish to submit opening statements, their statements will be added to the record. And for now, I turn to our witnesses. First, Mr. Michael Caccuitto. Did I get that right, Mr.?
Yes, sir, Caccuitto.
Thank you. Even if it's not true, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Mr. Caccuitto, I'll filibuster for a moment while Mr. Gingrey gets settled. And after the introductions, I think if Mr. Gingrey would like to do so, I'd certainly be happy to recognize him for an opening statement. Ms. Joanne Goodnight, the SBIR STTR Program Coordinator of the Extramural Research National Institutes of Health at DHS. all these things change. Mr. Larry James, the SBIR and STTR Program Manager and Acting Director of the Small Business Research Division at the Department of Energy. Mr. Comstock, Mr. Doug Comstock is the Director of Innovative Partnership Program Office at NASA. And Dr. Kesh Narayanan, bless you, thank you. Dr. Kesh Narayanan, the Director of the Division of Industrial Innovation and Partnerships at the Directorate for Engineering at the National Science Foundation. And Mr. Caccuitto, I fail to recognize that you are the SBIR STTR Program Coordinator at the Office of Small Business Programs at the Department of Defense. Thank you very much for being here. And at this point in time, I recognize my good friend from Georgia, Dr. Gingrey, for his opening statement.
Mr. Chairman, thank you so much. I apologize to the chairman and to the committee and to our distinguished panel of witnesses. It is very important hearing of the Subcommittee on Technology and Innovation. Good afternoon, and again, thank you, Chairman Wu, for holding this second hearing of the Small Business Innovative Research Program, SBIR, and the Small Business Technology Transfer Program, STTR. Under SBIR program, departments and agencies with R&D budgets of $100 million or more are required, as we all know, to set aside 2.5% of these budgets to sponsor research at small companies. Overall, this is a $2 billion program. These awards are highly competitive, with only the most pioneering and innovative companies receiving these federal monies. This is some of the most groundbreaking and inventive science research in the country. And, Mr. Chairman, this is really some of the biggest bang for our buck. The SBIR program began in 1982 under President Ronald Reagan, when our government saw a need to increase our national investment in research and development to specifically seek technological innovations in emerging areas. A capstone of this program is to position United States companies vis-a-vis foreign competitors. The ultimate goal of SBIR program is to bring new products and technologies to commercialization in order to stimulate international competitiveness. This program is an important stepping stone in the overall goal to keep America's competitive advantage in the worldwide marketplace. The STTR program was established in 1992, and it funds R&D cooperatively by small businesses and research institutions such as universities, federally funded R&D centers, or domestic research organizations. Currently, 11 departments and agencies sponsor SBIR programs, and today we will hear from the programs managers who oversee the 5 largest programs. I am certainly looking forward to hearing from these men and women who handle the SBIR and STTR programs and ensure that our best science goes forward towards commercialization and keeping this country competitive on a global level. Mr. Chairman, again, I thank you for your indulgence and your patience, and I certainly look forward to hearing from all of our witnesses.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gingrey, and with that, we shall start with Mr. Michael Caccuitto from the Department of Defense.
Thank you, Chairman Wu, Ranking Member Gingrey, for inviting me to testify on the SBIR and STTR programs, specifically on how they're managed within the Department of Defense. It's certainly an honor to appear here before you, representing the scores of talented and dedicated individuals that throughout the Department of Defense that implement this program every day. The central mission of the Department of Defense is to fight and win our nation's wars. Among the many critical challenges to accomplishing this mission, we must sustain operations around the world while also preparing to face the myriad threats of tomorrow. A particularly important task is the supply of material for our warfighters to help them accomplish their missions. This is done through the exploration, development, and acquisition of technologies that enable new and lower-cost capabilities. To accomplish this, the Department must invest in the right enabling technologies and cultivate an industrial base capable of meeting our strategic needs. The SBIR and STTR programs play a key role in both of these objectives. by seeding innovation in our industrial base, and in so doing, developing firms with the potential to supply leading-edge technologies to meet our warfighters' needs today and tomorrow. By way of a brief overview, the DoD program is comprised of 12 constituent military departments and defense agencies and other activities. We call them components, each implementing their own program with oversight and some central administration provided by the DoD Office of Small Business Programs. This model, centralized oversight, decentralized management and execution, allows participating components to meet their own mission, unique mission needs with their own programs. The three largest participants are no surprise. The Army, Navy, and Air Force together comprise more than 3/4 of the DoD's program. The most significant and noticeable changes since the programs were last reauthorized is an increase in the budget. Both programs have more than doubled since the last time the program was reauthorized. Together, they now total over $1.26 billion within the DoD. Interest in the program has also intensified over this period, as gauged by a nearly 100% increase in the number of proposals the department has received. Competition has thus remained very strong, with only the very best proposals receiving funding. Today, about 1 in 7 SBIR Phase 1 proposals are funded, and about 1 in 5 STTR proposals. We've not observed any significant changes or trends in the applicant pool. The defining characteristics of the applicants have remained fairly steady. Contracts are awarded in every state, to firms of all qualifying sizes, and to a great extent to firms that are new to the program. The department has implemented many changes over this period to increase the efficiency and program effectiveness. Technical and cost proposals are now submitted entirely electronically. Dedicated help desk operations have been expanded and modified to accommodate that. We've established a system for collecting commercialization data that we use both to measure firm performance and overall program effectiveness. The department has also established a Phase 2 enhancement program and commercialization pilot programs at the military departments to enhance the transition of the technologies that we're developing. Consistent with the oversight and execution model that I described earlier, each agency topics are generated in a decentralized fashion to meet mission needs. These candidate topics are reviewed at OSD. Under current policy, at least half of these topics at the military departments must be supported or authored by the acquisition community. This reflects what we call a balanced portfolio approach to ensure that a portion of the investment portfolio focuses on technical needs with a high degree of connectivity to nearer-term development and acquisition needs, while giving the remainder of the topics a freer hand to explore areas of high potential value. In conclusion, thank you again, Mr. Chairman, for the opportunity to testify today. I hope my oral and written statement will provide you with some understanding of how we run the program in DoD and assist you and your colleagues in the reauthorization discussion. And I look forward to addressing questions you and the members have at the conclusion of our remarks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Caccuitto. Ms. Goodnight.
Chairman Wu, Ranking Member Gingrey, and members of the subcommittee, thank you for the opportunity to discuss the SBIR and STTR programs at the NIH, one of the largest funders of these programs and the largest supporter of biomedical research. My statement for the record addresses the 6 areas that you requested in your letter of invitation. This afternoon, I will discuss the importance of the SBIR and STTR program in fulfilling the NIH mission and missions of the 23 SBIR STTR participating institutes and centers, enhancements that have improved the program's effectiveness, and key trends that are influencing the NIH, SBIR, and STTR landscape. Woven through each of these topics is the overarching theme that program flexibility is key to enable us to achieve our mission of improving health and saving lives. The SBIR and STTR programs have complemented NIH's mission to advance science while reducing the burden of illness on public health. The many biomedical advances achieved by NIH-funded researchers allow people to live longer and healthier lives. Today, as the age of our population shifts, so too does the landscape of health problems, from acute to chronic diseases such as heart attack, obesity, and stroke. We're in a race and we can win, but only through transformative discoveries and their rapid translation from the laboratory to patients. Projects funded through the SBIR and STTR programs focus on just that, not just on the R or the R&D. These are the only programs that have as their major focus commercialization of the research. SBIR and STTR products are touching people's daily lives. For example, through agency-focused topics or investigator-initiated ideas, NIH-supported small businesses are developing vaccines for biodefense and food safety, anesthesia delivery devices to relax children during medical procedures, improved blood glucose monitors, safer laser vision correction methods, and infusion patches to deliver drugs such as insulin or smallpox vaccine. However, program participation has not increased at the same rate we've seen across other NIH research programs. The numbers of SBIR and STTR applications and firms participating in the program are declining. While the reasons for this trend are unclear, factors that may contribute include firms losing eligibility, going out of business, not applying because of a perceived lack of incentives, or being too new to have developed the necessary infrastructure to successfully compete for an award. NIH is committed to maintaining the integrity of the SBIR and STTR programs and to the goal of translating scientific advances into tangible products and services for the benefit of all Americans. NIH is continually focused on ways to make the program more effective, and we've made numerous changes to provide maximum flexibility under the policy directives to achieve programmatic successes. Flexibility is critical at a time when science is changing rapidly, becoming more complex, more interdisciplinary, and ever more expensive. For example, NIH exercises the ability to exceed the award guidelines when the science warrants such a deviation for the successful development of products. To enhance the current phased award structure, we offer gap funding programs and technical assistance programs. In addition, we've developed several databases, such as PODS, for Performance Outcomes and Data System, which is a government database for tracking the continued achievements of SBIR awardees over time. Another database is a public matchmaking venue called NIH Pipeline to Partnerships, which is a virtual space to facilitate commercialization whereby our awardees can showcase their technologies and product development to potential strategic partners, investors, and licensees. Program flexibility and enhancements are important to the effective and efficient administration of the programs. However, program sustainability is vital for continued success. As I mentioned, the numbers of SBIR applications and new firms are declining in spite of a recent doubling of SBIR program funding that occurred along with the overall doubling of the NIH budget. And the downturns are in stark contrast to the overall increase in the number of other NIH applications. Mr. Chairman, you asked what factors may be contributing to the changes in our applicant pool. My statement for the record offers several possibilities, and I'd like to highlight three in particular. New companies may find the process daunting or may be unsure how to match their skills with our research areas. For some, there may be insufficient opportunity incentives to apply, and we know that some firms lost their eligibility due to ownership changes. To increase participation, NIH plans to give funding preference to new firms and/or to firms that respond to agency-specific priorities. And as time and resources permit, we will continue to do targeted outreach, participating in national, regional, and state conferences, especially for new companies and women-owned firms, and those firms owned by socially and disadvantaged individuals. My personal key message at each of these events is, yes, I'm from the government, but I really am here to help you, so don't leave without any question answered. Don't leave with any question unanswered. In conclusion, I want to reemphasize the NIH commitment to maximize the effectiveness of the NIH, SBIR, and STTR programs in concert with our mission to improve the health and extend the lives of all people. Our small business applicant pool must be increased to achieve this vital goal, and we are hopeful that our continuing outreach efforts, together with our actions to modernize the SBIR and STTR programs, will prove helpful. Finally, we continue to believe strongly that flexibility within the SBIR and STTR programs is essential to achieving greater successes in these programs. This concludes my statement, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the extra 30 seconds, and I'll be pleased to answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Ms. Goodnight. Mr. James.
Yes. Mr. Wu, Chairman, Dr. Gingrey, Ranking Member, and other members of the subcommittee, thank you for the opportunity to speak today about the Small Business Innovation and Small Business Technology Transfer Program at the Department of Energy. The Department's Office of Science has managed these programs since the SBIR program was formed in '82 and the STTR program in '92. They are treated like any other R&D program as a vehicle by which the Department accomplishes its mission objectives. The SBIR and STTR programs accomplish their goals through a balance of centralized and decentralized management. The program's office is centralized in setting schedules, preparing solicitations, processing grant applications, maintaining a grant application evaluation framework, making final award selections, and issuing research grants. Responsibility for developing research topics is decentralized among the contributing program officers, which fund the SBIR and STTR programs annually. These programs listed on this slide are also responsible for the recruiting of peer reviewers, providing a ranking of grant applications, and managing the technical aspects of their program-funded small business research projects. Examples of current research topics are shown in the slide and include nanotechnology for energy efficiency and renewable energy, technology to support national scientific user facilities, materials for advanced nuclear energy systems, research to support proliferation detection, nuclear particle physics and radiation detection systems, power electronics, and advanced materials for energy storage. Once the grant applications are received, the evaluation process begins. The applications are received, the merit review of grant applications is conducted in the same rigorous manner as other Office of Science research programs. Equal weight is given to each of the evaluation criteria shown on the slide and described in detail in the written testimony. On average, 1 of every 6 SBIR and STTR and 9 STTR Phase 1 applications are selected for funding. Our programs maintain appropriate award-to-application ratios by adjusting the list of research topics annually based on the program and department mission needs and by active participation in outreach activities. DOE participates in national, regional, and state-sponsored outreach events to encourage small businesses to respond to DOE's annual funding announcement. These events involve 2 to 3 day conferences with presentations and panel discussions that include federal agency program managers and experts in writing grant applications and formulating budgets. One-on-one meetings with prospective small businesses encourage attendees to discuss their technologies and how they might meet agency needs. In 24 years, the Department has invested almost $1.5 billion in Phase 1 and Phase 2 research grants. Of the almost 35,000 Phase 1 and more than 4,000 Phase 2 grant applications received, about 4,700 Phase 1 projects were funded and almost 2,000 Phase 2 projects were funded. Annual small business research program funds have gradually increased over the last decade, reflecting the trend in the Department's total extramural R&D funding. The percentage of awards going to first-time awardees has remained strong at 25 to 35% of total awards. We believe growing national and global interest in energy-related science and technology in recent years has led to resurgence in the number of applicants and the number of high-quality applications. Small business research awardees have excellent skills in science and engineering research, but most lack business experience. One type of commercialization assistance offered to selected Phase 2 awardees is the Opportunity Forum, which brings small businesses with promising technologies face-to-face with potential investors and strategic partners. This program provides access to professionals who help the awardee develop and refine business plans, develop and refine a marketing presentation, and recruit a customized set of investors and strategic partner forum participants. This and other types of commercialization assistance and training available to selected awardees are summarized in the slide and described further in the written statement. In 24 years, the Department has invested almost $1 billion in Phase 1 and Phase 2 research grants. Of the almost 35,000, you all are waiting for a conclusion, right? The Department has invested almost $1.5 billion in these small business research programs. In return, about 60% of the companies have had sales of more than $1.6 billion, and have garnered some $1.3 billion in additional Phase 3 development funding. The Department of Energy tries to maintain a strong and appropriately balanced core research program through R&D supported at universities, its national laboratories, and small businesses. These programs enable America's small businesses to make valuable contributions to advancing the Department's missions. I look forward to working with this committee and others as Congress considers the reauthorization of these programs. Thank you again, Mr. Chairman, for the opportunity to speak here today.
Thank you very much, Mr. James, and Mr. Comstock, please go ahead, proceed.
Mr. Chairman, Ranking Member Gingrey, and other members of the subcommittee, thank you for the opportunity to appear today and discuss NASA's Small Business Innovation Research and Small Business Technology Transfer programs. These programs are managed as an element of NASA's Innovative Partnerships Program, whose primary mission is to provide leveraged technology and capabilities to agency programs and projects through partnerships with industry, academia, government agencies, and national laboratories. Both the SBIR and STTR programs have evolved and matured since they were last authorized, and NASA continues to pursue ways to improve program efficiency and effectiveness. Organizationally, the programs have historically been in one of NASA's 4 mission directorates. They include Science, Aeronautics Research, Space Operations, and Exploration Systems. In August 2005, the Innovative Partnerships Program, which includes SBIR and STTR, was established as an agency-wide mission support office reporting to the Office of the Administrator. This change reflected the desire to emphasize the agency-wide nature of what IPP does. The SBIR and STTR programs have operated largely independently from the other partnership and technology transfer functions in the past, but we're changing that, and the Innovative Partnerships Program is now focused on managing these activities in an integrated way to benefit from common technology priorities, outreach activities, and technology transfer and partnership opportunities. As an investment opportunity, SBIR STTR projects address specific technology gaps, provide a foundation for future technology needs, and are complementary to other research investments within the mission directorates. A key goal is increased technology infusion into NASA's programs and projects. In October 2006, we initiated a new consolidated structure to streamline communications between field centers. NASA has 10 field centers across the country, and the 4 mission directorates on technology needs. We are now beginning to track the maturity of SBIR STTR technologies using technology readiness levels, an important measure of technical progress that will also increase our understanding of when technologies will be ready for infusion or commercial use. Phase 3 authority to enter into sole source contracts has made it easier for NASA's programs and projects and their prime contractors to get access to small businesses. In addition, a new tool called the Technology Infusion Advisor is being implemented to increase Phase 3s and close gaps in the infusion process. Many SBIR STTR technologies have been successfully infused and are making important contributions on some of NASA's highest profile programs. NASA's Mars exploration rovers, Spirit and Opportunity, are using SBIR heritage lithium-ion batteries, heat switches, and ASCII chips. Space shuttle missions, following return to flight after the Columbia accident, are now using SBIR-developed wireless sensors for the impact detection system in the leading edge of the shuttle wings. My written testimony includes several statistics, but let me give you a few highlights. NASA's extramural R&D spending was between $4.2 and $4.4 billion from 2001 to 2006. As NASA retires the space shuttle and shifts resources from operations towards development of new exploration systems, in the next few years it is expected that extramural R&D will increase. NASA conducts many outreach efforts, primarily through conferences and workshops, to focus on increasing participation by the small business community. The percentage of new firms participating each year has been in the 30 to 50% range, and they have submitted between 20 to 35% of the proposals, yielding regular refreshing of the applicant pool. NASA's SBIR STTR programs have also achieved strong geographic participation, with all but 5 states receiving Phase 1 awards from the program since 2000, and all but 7 states receiving Phase 2 awards. Since 2000, 24 states have received more than 20 awards from NASA's SBIR STTR programs, and 18 states have received more than 50. NASA has received an average of about 2,000 proposals annually since the year 2000, and the number of awards has remained steady at about 450 to 500 awards annually. Since 2000, between 15 and 18% of participating SBIR firms were minority-owned, and between 12 and 14% were women-owned. And these firms competed well with roughly the same proportion of awards as the proposals. The NASA SBIR STTR homepage is a gateway to publicly accessible data with a range of information, including a searchable listing of all Phase 1 and 2 awards for the last 10 years, SBIR STTR program contents, success story gateway and videos, technologies available, proposal and award statistics by state, as well as numerous assistance links, including business and technical assistance, state-sponsored programs, and venture capital information. TechSource provides important information on current and recently completed Phase 2 projects funded by NASA. And one of our new activities in just the last 2 years, TechFusion, has yielded participants reviewing about 1,000 SBIR developed innovations, and they've personally interacted with over 150 SBIR firms and developed partnerships with over 50 firms. The NASA Alliance for Small Business Opportunity facilitates private investment in and commercial development of NASA-sponsored technologies. In closing, NASA is using the SBIR STTR programs as an important source of technological innovation, which in turn is vital to the performance of NASA's mission and the nation's prosperity and security. Mr. Chairman, I would be pleased to respond to your questions, as well as the other members of the subcommittee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Comstock. Dr. Narayanan.
SBIR strategy. Thank you, Doug. The SBIR is an integral part of the NSF strategy. The National Science Foundation encourages discovery research for innovation. The SBIR plays a critical role moving discovery to innovation for the broad societal benefit. The NSF model for encouraging innovation is unique. We fund small business endeavors at early stages when risk is highest. More importantly, we provide awardees with an educational component that helps to transform them from scientists into business people, thus increasing their chances of commercializing new technologies. I would like to illustrate this with the story of one SBIR company. The company name is Sensent. In the medical diagnostic field, X-ray imaging is a powerful tool used in mammography. However, it's intrusive, inconvenient, deters women from taking early preventive tests. Ultrasonic testing offers a competing technology, less intrusive, suffers from poor resolution that reduces its effectiveness for early stage detection, which is critical for successful treatments. This is where the SBIR company, Sensent, comes in, with an innovative microelectromechanical system technology application to augment ultrasound. With funding from the NSF SBIR program, Sensent developed a silicon wafer transducer, demonstrated the feasibility of its use as a sensor for mammography. Now the Sensent technology can be used with ultrasound technology to detect fine-scale density differences in tissue with precision approaching that of X-ray. Most importantly, without the discomfort of the X-ray mammography. The promise of this technology was so compelling to Siemens Medical that Siemens bought Sensent and integrated them into their imaging business unit. I use this example to illustrate not only a direct societal benefit of NSF-funded research, but also to discuss how NSF SBIR program helps companies like Sensent obtain the business sophistication they need to get to market. Sensent, as with all companies, receive NSF SBIR funding. First receive Phase 1 funding. At NSF, proposals for Phase 2 funding require a commercialization plan in addition to technical research plan. Thus, when a business receives Phase 2 funding, it already has a strategy in place for commercialization. Further, NSF pioneered the Phase 2B supplement incentive program to help Phase 2 grantees attract third-party funding, thus providing an independent validation of the market opportunity. With the Phase 2B success, we recently launched a Phase 1B supplement to attract third-party commitments at an even earlier stage in the discovery to innovation process. We supply guidance in the form of education, workshops to help these young companies forge commercialization strategies. Sensen co-founder Igor Ladabaum, in fact, returned to NSF recently to share his success story with other awardees during one of these workshops as part of the ongoing education of our grantees. Sensen demonstrated leveraging early NSF funding with significant private funding, leading to the ultimate acquisition by a large corporation. When a company like Sensen completes the progression from idea to commercialization, the public-private partnership works at its best. Recent follow-up of about 400 NSF SBIR grantees reveals that NSF model makes a significant impact. A summary of statistics for the awardees shows that these companies almost doubled their revenues and grew 50% in the number of employees in the 5 years after receiving Phase 2 funding. Currently, the SBIR program limits both the budget amount for technical assistance and how it can be used for business education. Further, we have talented program managers at NSF who are unable to provide hands-on mentoring due to the limitation on administrative funds. I'm here to advocate more flexibility in how we allot funds for education and mentorship for each awardee to tailor our efforts to their needs. Mr. Chairman, this concludes my testimony. On behalf of the National Science Foundation, the SBIR program, and our awardees, I want to thank you for this opportunity to highlight a program that provides small business with the means to keep America on the forefront of innovation. I would be pleased to provide any additional information that will be useful to you.
Thank you for your testimony, Dr. Narayanan. Since we enter the question and answer phase, or question and comment phase of our hearing, and Dr. Narayanan, since you've been so patient, it is my intention, first of all, I recognize myself for 5 minutes. It is my intention to reverse the order and sweep from right to left. Feel no compulsion to leap in with an answer, but to the extent that any of you all have a comment or an answer to the questions that I asked, please feel free as we proceed. All 5 of you administer programs. SBIR currently does not provide a set-aside for administrative costs. Would any of you, first of all, recommend that there be a set-aside for administrative costs? If so, how much? And what would be gained by giving you all a set-aside to administer the program? Dr. Narayanan.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, NSF does have a non-SBIR fund set aside to help us in the current administrative which we are doing. My pitch is that it's not adequate. It could be augmented. For example, we have, as you probably know, for the last 25 years,
this is money from another pot that
yes,
you're moving over?
That is correct. It's a non-SBIR fund. And for example, for the last 23 years, we have sponsored the National SBIR Conference, which all our fellow colleagues from other agencies have actively participated. So we were, if you will, we were footing the bill, so to speak. That came from the non-SBIR funds. That's just one example. And
does it diminish your enthusiasm for the program or of other parts of NSF when that happens?
No, not at all. In fact, that I don't think the real issue is like anything else. Where I want to make a pitch is we are uniquely structured that like we had 10 SBIR program managers assigned by the technology and business interests, and each one has technology and business background. And we could provide a lot more mentorship and a lot more individual site visit, and so to say, kick the tire at the grantee if we could have that kind of flexibility. And we don't have that amount of flexibility at this point.
Well, mentorship and the flex. Could you also be doing could you also enhance the data that you collect on the impact of the SBIR program?
Absolutely right, and enhance, no, we are
And I
collect-
apologize for rushing you along, but what percentage set aside would you feel, shall we say, is minimally adequate?
I would hate to put any numbers on that.
But you're from the National Science Foundation.
Well, the key thing is whatever it is we do, I don't want to damage what is already being done. Because, for example, I just said...
You're not going to give me a number, are you?
I'm not going to give you a number.
Okay, Mr. Comstock, maybe you're from NASA. Maybe you can give me a number and talk about the other two issues also.
Well, I can give you a number for what we currently spend. We spend roughly about $9 million a year on the administrative costs for the program.
And what percentage would that be?
And that would be about 7 or 8%. And there are pressures from the budget on things, so it's a constant trade-off of priorities. There are things like you mentioned that would, if we had additional resources, we would have flexibility to do more research into tracking the progress of firms in terms of commercialization. Correct.
Yeah, a feedback loop.
So anything that can give us more flexibility in what we do could help enhance what we do, but not prepared to give you a number today either. I'm sorry.
Well, you know, you've given me a ballpark at least for what you currently spend. I'm not sure that we're going to come. We might or might not be in the neighborhood of that legislatively. We will see. Mr. James?
Yes. I agree that we could enhance the program, we could improve its efficiencies primarily. Right now, we spend less than $1 million direct because ours is decentralized and centralized. Our centralized aspect is less than $1 million, as I say, about $800,000 over a $120 million program. So it's very low, but that isn't all there is. We have procurement authority in Chicago that does all of our grants and so forth. We have program managers across the department that are paid for by their main program, so it's hard to say what the total cost is. But if we could use 1% of the set aside, that would double our direct cost. Right.
Okay.
And certainly we don't do site visits. We used to do site visits, and there are lots of things we could do that we don't do now to improve the program.
What would be the 1, 2, or 3 most crucial things? What would be 1 or 2 of the most crucial things that you could provide that you currently can't?
I think the idea of commercialization, measuring the program's performance from a commercialization standpoint, we could do a lot better job at that, I think. And our program managers could be tied into the performance of their phase 2s, particularly through site visits by going to the companies. We used to require that, but all of our supporting programs, their travel budgets have gone down significantly, and this is a very low on their priority list.
Dr. Gingrey, with your forbearance, we'll finish letting the two witnesses to answer that first question. Ms. Goodnight.
We're currently incurring costs, I'm going to break them out, for outreach, about $60,000 per year to do conferences, workshops, as well as our own annual conference, which is now going into its 10th year. We also have developed a number of databases, and I think that's the most important thing right now, is for us to be able to track the outcomes of these projects, especially for our agency where the commercialization may not even be realized for 5 to 7, if not 10 to 12 years down the road. So to be able to go back to those companies and ask them to document their achievements, and they're often quite willing to do so, but it takes resources to develop the databases and to maintain those. A number of areas in terms of logistics support and technical site visits, so that the small businesses who might not have the infrastructure to keep to have the systems in place for many of the auditing requirements, we could do some proactive assistance on helping them stay out of trouble. And then I'm thinking about this, and we could probably provide it for the written record, just in terms of NIH's overall administrative budget, I want to say is somewhere in the 3.5% to 4% range. So we've heard a number of ranges, and it's interesting that we're falling right in the middle of that.
Thank you, Ms. Goodnight. Mr. Caccuitto.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for asking the question. The Department of Defense, as part of its draft FY08 Defense Authorization Bill, did include a request for up to 3%, request to use up to 3% of the set-aside to fund various administrative costs incurred by the program. Among those, I would say the most important ones to consider are the organic activities that actually implement the program, such as contracting, technical oversight, and source selection, and transition assistance as well. I would put that in the top three. Those things all require a tremendous amount of resources internally for the department to execute effectively, and this request we made, we think, will give us additional tools we need to do it better.
Thank you. Dr. Gingrey, recognized for 5 minutes.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. I want to direct my first question to Ms. Goodnight. Ms. Goodnight, in June of 2005, the NIH director, Dr. Zahuni, wrote then SBA Administrator Barreto to request that the SBA allow companies with majority-backed by venture capital companies to compete for SBIR grants. And in his letter, this is what Dr. Zahuni states: perversely, this rule dries up federal funding for early-stage ideas from small concerns that, by attracting substantial VCC funding, venture capital, show strong signs of likely success. Many of these concerns are the very entities that, with SBIR funding, offer significant promise for progress in improving public health. That ends the quote. I want you to elaborate on the lost opportunities resulting from this 2003 OHA ruling and subsequent change in SBA policy.
Thank you for the question. I want to just take a step back and highlight part of my written statement where we discuss the financing needs in the biomedical sector, and that those needs actually force the small businesses to often undertake several rounds of private financing. And the simple thing is they just can't do it alone when they're developing a drug or a vaccine or a therapeutic. These types of funds often support their expensive and essential clinical studies. So we're providing phase 1 and phase 2 dollars, and rather than them sitting out on a pier trying to figure out how to cross that commercialization valley of death, they seek funding through other sources, which may be venture capital, it may be other financing as well. We are aware of some companies who have sought SBIR funding, and I could provide a couple of examples. There's one where the company sought funding for the oral treatment of deadly brain tumors. And this is a company who actually, as we had selected them for an award and were going through the verification statement, had indicated to us that they were in control of the day-to-day research operations, which I found to be very key in terms of the control versus who's really doing the research and controlling the operations. However, in April 2007, they were deemed to be ineligible due to their VC ownership structure. They let us know that they have shelved that project because they were using the SBIR funds for that very early stage funding for which there wasn't other financing available for them to do their feasibility study. There's another company in the area of MEMS technology. So they're not even always, disease or clinically related. MEMS technologies are finding their place in medical devices right now. And what is perhaps most notable about that company, and I believe that was in May 2006 that they were determined to be ineligible, they actually told us that they were shutting down their operation.
Yeah.
And so those are just two examples. There are others. We're aware that there are companies now.
Well, we're claiming my time, and I thank you for that. And I guess the question is, during the 21 years when majority venture-backed companies participated, were allowed to participate, in the SBIR program. Was the NIH aware of any concerns regarding participation by these type companies? And what I'm getting to is the bottom line question. Is it possible that the 2003 SBA ruling was a solution to a problem that really did not exist? And of course, the corollary to all of this is that, you know, when we had our previous hearing on this issue, it came to our attention that some companies are receiving hundreds of SBIR grants comprising tens of millions of dollars. We might refer to them as grant hogs. And so as the pool of potential applicants shrinks due to this eligibility concern, is NIH concerned that some companies are inappropriately using SBIR programs in a way that was not envisioned when the program was established 25 years ago, and just churning these grants and not ever making any progress, and we're losing out on the good companies because of this ruling? Mr. Chairman, I see that my time has expired, but I want an answer to this question.
I would be happy to, Dr. Gingrey, to have you finish the question and have the witnesses who wish to respond do so.
Mr. Chairman, thank you so much for that. And I have finished the question and also my speech, but I now would love to hear first again from Ms. Goodnight and then the rest of the participants as well.
So I heard two questions. I heard, were we aware of any concerns regarding the companies with those venture capital structures, and the other having to do with the companies who are receiving a large number of awards. We're not aware of any concerns regarding participation by those companies. And what's probably important to note is companies who apply for the awards actually self-certify that they are a small business meeting the eligibility criteria. We take it one step further and we ask them to complete a verification statement because a lot can change in the 6 to 9 months from the time of application to award. So those concerns were not made known to us because they were certifying that they were eligible. On the other, I did speak in the statement for the record about something that we have an eye on, and that is that at a time when applications are decreasing, and a time when first-time entrants are also decreasing, we are seeing an increase in applications from firms who have received a large number of awards. I think it's premature to really make any statement about it. Some companies who get multiple awards actually are quite successful, and they're developing products and services to benefit the public. Others, we have a little bit of a concern that they may be using the program more for R or R&D, but not with an eye toward commercialization, which really is the intent of the program. And so we have made some decisions to start to give preference to companies that are new entrants to the program and those who are responding to agency-specific priority areas. And then we would, with resources as they are available, continue to monitor some of those, maybe the top 100 SBIR award recipients.
Thank you. Anyone else, any of the other panelists care to comment on this question? The indulgence of the chairman. Thank you.
May I comment? First, I think Ms. Goodnight correctly pointed out that this is not just a biotechnology issue. It's much broader. We have portfolio in the nanotechnology, which also attracts the VCs as well as angels. So that's a broader issue than just a narrow issue. And other is your question very specific with regard to the SBIR companies receiving many grants or many awards. One of the things we ask when any company applies to NSF is what we call past commercialization record or history. And in that, we ask them in the past, how many grants or contracts have we received, who are they from, and basically what have you done with that. That becomes a part of the total evaluation process. In a sense, they have a bigger hurdle that they have to justify or show the return on investment of those versus a brand new company with no commercialization record doesn't have that particular exercise to do. So the way we deal with it is, we are not really barring anybody to come in or not, is we really expect more from them.
Thank you, Dr. Narayanan, and thank you, Dr. Gingrey. I'd dearly love to follow up on either both questions that Dr. Gingrey asked, or both forks of the road, if you will, sort of the old Yogi Berra, if you come to a fork in the road, take it. But let's follow up on the venture capital aspect of this. Ms. Goodnight, has there been a drop-off in or a change in number of applicants for SBIR grants to NIH?
So since 2004, we have seen a fairly steady decline.
And that is in contrast to all other applications to NIH?
That's correct. For our non-SBIR STTR applications, those have actually been growing very healthily, and so that also occurred during the doubling of the NIH budget.
And prior to, say, 2003, 2004, was there a significant amount of venture capital participation among the pool of SBIR applicants that NIH saw?
Again, it's a bit of a difficult question. We know that the companies who are going to succeed in certain technology areas are going to have to seek venture capital funding. So I would imagine that those who are successful were actually getting those investments. For those coming back into the program, if they're self-certifying that they meet the eligibility criteria, we don't collect information on their ownership structure. So that made it a bit of a... But
there could be substantial, if you will, self-censorship, or just taking oneself out of the applicant pool, because news gets around that, that an ALJ made a decision in 2001/2003 that you're not eligible anymore, so why spend the time and money applying?
I agree, and I think that the more that word got around, we saw maybe the greater decrease in 2004. But again, I'm sure it is not only due to that. There are multiple factors affecting it. We believe that is one reason. But sure, they don't want to apply and self-certify when now they know that they're not meeting those criteria.
Particularly when they could be challenged by someone else.
Exactly.
Let me jump over to Mr. James and Mr. Comstock, because I think in your written submissions, you all took the other position supporting the current or the policy as outlined by the administrative law judge in the two decisions of 2001 and 2003. Did you all, I understand we have the self-certification issue and whether we have the data, but whether it's from statistics or impressionistically, did you have a significant amount of VC participation in your SBIR applicants prior to 2003?
We don't keep that information, so I don't know.
Mr. Comstock?
Yeah, we don't track that information either, but we do have the self-certification during the proposal process that they're compliant with the policy.
Okay. Have either one of you seen a drop-off in applications around that timeline of 2003, 2004, from before to afterwards?
Well, there was a peak in about 2000, and it varies year to year, so there isn't really a clear trend, but the peak was in 2000.
Ms. Goodnight, from your perspective, there was a crisp break around that time period.
Right. We saw an 11.9% decrease from 2004 to 2005 and a 14.9% decrease from 2005 to 2006. We had seen decreases before, but these were more stark than we had seen, especially where the other applications were increasing between 4 and 17%.
Thank you, Ms. Goodnight. And I want to get to Mr. James before getting back to Dr. Narayanan, and I want to respect Dr. Gingrey's patience here also. Mr. James, might things change at DOE as the commercialization of energy research becomes, shall we say, more crucial to our economy than it has been in the past?
Certainly, and we attribute that resurgence that we've had over the last 5 or 6 years in the number of applications, the number of applicants, as certainly being part of the price of oil, for example. As we know, the small businesses follow the money, and if they see either the research money or the commercialization money, they go into business.
But venture capitalists also follow the money also, right? So they might start investing in these small businesses, and I'll come back to the question in a minute of, do you really care what their capital structure is? Dr. Narayanan, your agency submitted a statement, I believe, to the effect that I don't want to I don't want to say the words for you or get it wrong. Tell me NSF's position on this particular issue.
I think our request would be to keep it simple. In the number of employees, less than 500 is clear. This corporate structure, the way the interpretation, etc., is complex. We upfront say, look, since we are not the final customer, we want from day one some kind of a private partnership. That is, this has to, because as you know, sir, in the business world, R&D is a very small part to really run a business. And you need money beyond R&D, and we are not going to provide it.
Thank you very much, Dr. Narayanan. And Dr. Gingrey, with your forbearance, the final question of the panel on this issue is, if we want to help small businesses, and small businesses are businesses under 500 employees, unless you're the SEC, why do you care about the capital structure of a particular company rather than whether it's a small business or not? Who cares who the shareholders are? There is a requirement for domestic ownership, but domestic ownership is different from capital structure. Tell me why we should care about capital structure. Anyone?
We don't.
I know you don't. But Ms. Goodnight would like to not care. Someone must care. One administrative law judge cares, and the area office in Boston. No one else? Well, we know there's some others, but Dr. Gingrey.
Well, I think, just as a follow-on to this line of questioning, because the chairman and I and the other members of the subcommittee that were at the previous hearing, we've heard a lot of this testimony, and so you know, and everybody in the room knows that we have concern about this, and as the fiduciaries of the public tax dollar, it is our responsibility to make sure that these programs work in the way that they were originally intended to work, so that we do compete globally, and we don't see all of our technology being exported along with all of our jobs, and that's what this is all about. And Dr. Narayanan, you said a couple of times about, well, what you particularly pay attention to is if the applicant meets the criterion of a small business. But that sort of brings up another opportunity, I think, for maybe a grant hog to structure their business in a way that you spin off a group that's under 500, and you end up having all kinds of structures under a LLC or C Corp or S Corp or whatever, and you've got all these other opportunities then to keep applying for grants so that you remain eligible by virtue of the under 500 rule. So these are some of the things that concern us. I mean, we really, I am, just very enthusiastic about programs such as this, and if they're working correctly, it can be a great advantage to our country, and not just biotechnology industry, but you mentioned nanotechnology and the Department of Defense, and all of these things are hugely important. So I guess, Mr. Chairman, that wasn't a question, but I just want to make sure that the major participants in this program, these two programs, the agencies, the 5 that are the most heavily involved, are really almost like inspector generals and not just administrators of the program.
Kind of like the end of the movie in Casablanca, walking off into the fog together. It looks like we're highly likely to have a bipartisan bill. It's a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful thing. Let us move on to perhaps a less dramatic issue on data collection. Dr. Narayanan and Ms. Goodnight, you mentioned pods at your agency. Dr. Goodnight, I'm sorry, Dr. Narayanan, over in NSF, we'll just go across the witness table from right to left. Do you see significant data gaps in following the success or lack thereof of the SBIR awardees and your ability to track them and see to follow up on whether the taxpayer really is getting bang for his or her buck?
Mr. Chairman, till about almost a couple of years ago, we had a requirement that every grantee for 5 years beyond the end of the grant submit a commercialization record. But one of the things we found is that it was sporadic, they were not complete, and they didn't have really enough substance. Unlike phase 1 and phase 2, where we hold a little bit of money back till the
I was going to say you need a carrot or a stick.
Yes, and so we didn't have either. So about 2 years ago, so we made a decision, and we have basically 2 years experience. We put a part-time, very seasoned program manager to do this data collection. And what he does is he looks in a very systematic way on the anniversary this month, anniversary for 3 years, 5 years, and 8 years from the date of the giving the grant, a phase 2 grant. He calls, he has a question, about 10 standard questions. He sends them in advance. He engages with them in a telephone. And as I said, he's a seasoned technology business person, so he understands the nuance, the patent, etc. And that's where I cited in my oral testimony, over the last 2 years, he has talked to over 400 PIs. Some of them are grantees with multiple awards, so it's less than 400 companies, maybe, or 300 companies. And that's the data gathering we're starting to accumulate as we speak.
Let me ask the follow-up of you before we go to Mr. Comstock for the initial answer. The follow-up is, has the Small Business Administration contributed to this data collection process that NSF is engaged in?
No.
Comstock?
We have a very good data collection process when the firms are under contract. We have an electronic handbook where we collect and process all the information electronically.
That's for the duration of the grant.
Correct. But afterwards, beyond the time where they're covered under the contract, we don't have a robust data collection. We have done it in the past on a voluntary basis, collecting some data. And we do collect information on some particular success stories that we're aware of, and we publish some of those in our spin-off publication, for example. But there is definitely a gap in terms of the ability to track things once they're off of the contract.
And then, Mr. Comstock, for you, the follow-up before we get to Mr. James, does the SBA contribute either to the follow-through during the grant period or the data collection or lack thereof afterwards?
We provide information to them during the grant period. I'm not aware of anything after.
They don't establish uniformity for across agencies, across programs that you know of? No. Mr. James.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for the question. We, as you can see in the slides, we do keep track of sales.
Push your microphone button. See a green light in front of you? Okay. And perhaps a little closer.
Speak up.
If you pull the microphone a little bit closer.
Okay. We do keep track of, we have for a long time, mostly through telephone surveys, Spreadsheets and email makes it a lot easier now. We do have a very large database over the years. We follow them as long as we can, as long as having their contact information. We've developed a large database of sales, federal, non-federal, follow-on development, federal, non-federal. We also ask them who they're partnering with. Actually, we're obtaining some rather confidential information, so we're very careful about how we use this database, who we let see it, and so forth. We do not, though, have follow-on spin-offs. We would certainly, we are missing a lot of information because we're not allowed, there's no way that we can spend the resources on following a spin-off and seeing what it does. So we have the primary information, but none of the secondary information.
And Mr. James, the follow-up to you before we go to Ms. Goodnight, does the SBA help you develop that tracking system or establish uniformity in follow-up data across different agencies?
Here recently, over the last 6 months or a year, there have been discussions by the SBA to develop some standard survey formats for commercialization information. That hasn't culminated in anything concrete, but
so to this point in time, the answer is no.
Yes.
We're in agreement. To this point, the answer is they have not.
Nothing has come from that.
Thank you. Ms. Goodnight.
I want to maybe categorize the gaps in the data gaps, going back to the question. That helps you remember the question, Mike. So some gaps that we see are a lack of a project monitoring system to track awardees after the project ends, a lack of a database to track outcomes, not just the inputs such as our CRISP abstract database, which is any award that we make, we put the abstract up, but you don't know what's being delivered after that. And thirdly, the lack of a system to foster or facilitate the transition of the technology developed into that third phase, which again for us can be many, many years. So what NIH did was we set out to carry out a comprehensive evaluation of our Phase 2 awardees. We chose the period between 92 and 2001. We used the data from those respondents, had something like an 86% response rate, very high, and we used those data to create this PODS database, Performance Outcomes Data System. Unlike static annual reports, a really important unique feature of PODS is our ability to get to do updates of our awardees and allow them to document their achievements. So we may have asked them, what stage of the FDA approval process are you in? If they've told us that they've applied, maybe now when we do the second update, they've told us we've received FDA approval on this particular drug. So that's very important information that we wouldn't have gotten from just the very first survey. It also is really important as we've developed these databases to make sure that they tie back to metrics of success. Otherwise, what are we measuring? So we spent a lot of time and effort on non-SBIR resources of developing an entire evaluation framework and metrics and indices. So every time we go back, we can say, since the original survey, this percent has achieved sales, or this percent has received patents or gotten FDA approvals. I can hold on the Pipeline to Partnerships database, which is sort of a follow-on now to PODS. But one thing I would be happy to submit for the record, if you're interested, is the information that we ask our awardees to provide, so that if other agencies who aren't tracking could use something like that, they're welcome to seeing that the types of information that we provide.
Thank you, and without objection, so ordered. And Ms. Goodnight, the follow-up to you before we go to Mr. Caccuitto. Has the SBA been of assistance in establishing PODS or P2P? Are they working with you on this?
Yeah, so the short answer is no. We've developed these on our own resources.
And is your data interchangeable with the data of any of the other three agencies that have answered that question thus far, the representatives of whom have answered that question thus far?
I would say some of the data will be interchangeable, there will be pieces that we collect that aren't going to be relevant to other agencies, but that's the value, I guess, in having also each agency assess its own metrics.
Okay. Mr. Caccuitto.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the question. I would say we do an excellent job of characterizing program activity in terms of proposals, topics, awards. We have that down to a science with the SBA's leadership. Now, measuring outcomes is a different story. Since 2000, we've been collecting outcome data on commercialization systematically from our proposing firms. And to get current data, what we do is we require that data be submitted for it's on a Phase 2 basis. So each Phase 2 award that a company receives, they're required to report commercialization activity when they submit additional proposals for consideration. So we create a little bit of a requirement there. I guess that's a stick, not a carrot, for them to tell us what the outcomes have been. We also request that they keep it updated on at least an annual basis, but it's available to them all the time to update whenever they want. This has become a very comprehensive database.
Does it continue after the period of the grant?
It continues to exist, that's right.
No. Do you track the success of the awardee after the grant run expires?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, that's the period of time where we actually begin to see outcomes. It takes quite a bit of time normally after the contract has run its course for outcomes to materialize.
And you referred to the leadership of the SBA. Can you tell me what that leadership has provided?
Relative to this type of data?
Mm-hmm.
We've had some dialogue with their team and provided input to them regarding the construction of such a database at the SBA, but one doesn't currently exist, to my knowledge.
Okay, so you've been helping them, they haven't been helping you.
Right, that is correct, Mr. Chairman. But we think we're doing pretty well already. We have a very robust survey form that we continue to refine and improve the content.
Well, I want to assure all the witnesses, we all love the SBA, okay, and we can love them for many different reasons, but we don't have to love them for all reasons. So, thank you.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. And since Dr. Gingrey, since it appears that I have Dr. Gingrey's consent in this, I will continue with a couple of other questions. First of all, with respect to award amounts for Phase 1 and Phase 2, if we just go from right to left across the witnesses, my right to left, your left to right, Dr. Narayanan, could you comment upon your current view, based on all the information available, as to the proper award level as set in statute for Phase 1 and Phase 2 SBIR grants?
Mr. Chairman, may I comment on the previous data?
Oh, yes, my apologies.
And then I'll comment on the award amount.
Yes.
Just 2 points I wanted to make. One, when the season program managers calls, I think just to give some numbers, 85% of the calls he is able to connect and follow through. So it's a very high connection rate, which I think is made possible because when a program manager calls, you typically get a call back. And something we have tried to do through contractors, it doesn't work at the same high level success rate. Just an observation that we have. Other one you asked about, the 10 question we created, we didn't necessarily create completely in the vacuum. We have what we have constituted an advisory committee, which is an external body who meets twice, looks at our programs, we bring issues to them. So we brought these recommended 10 questions to them, and they fine-tuned it. They are, technology people, business people, and so the point, this is not directly connected to SBA, but it was not set of questions we created by ourselves. We ran it by the advisory committee. Back on the question about
Your advisor committee, an NSF advisor.
NSF SBIR advisory committee, yeah. The award amount, we have already started with raising the STTR to $150,000 in phase 1, primarily because we're finding that we were not providing enough incentive for the partnerships to participate. Now all of a sudden it's oversubscribed, because I think that it works. It shows that when you have choice between SBIR, STTR with a larger amount, and there is an incentive with a larger amount, we get a lot more STTR in the last 2 years when we made the changes. Overall, I would recommend...
And if you could repeat that you raised the STTR to what number?
The phase 1 STTR to $150,000 to make it attractive for both partners to have enough substance in there. And so that kind of increasing amount does make the attraction possible, in this case partnerships. And overall, of course, the phase 1 award amount has remained static for so long. So I would support increasing the amount, whether it's SBIR to 150 and STTR to 200. I would like to see some difference because a partnership requires a little more effort. On the phase 2 amount, it is $750,000, but even with that, our phase 2 we give only $500,000. But what we do is we use the funds up to $500,000 additional money. We'll give, if there is a matching phase 2B, up to $1 million. So in the case of phase 2B can go up to $1 million from us with $1 million from a third party. So that's where we are. So in that context, again,
the bootstrapping outside the
right,
formal program.
so that the
itself.
net effect is like a $2 million into the company on the project.
Currently $2 million.
$1 million from us, right? And it can go up to external. There's no limit on $1 million. They can put more than $1 million, and we don't limit that. External $1 million is not necessarily for research purpose. That's something they can negotiate for marketing, the distribution channel, patent application, whatever the case may be. So with that experience, I would say it is time to raise the phase 2 amount. In a sense, we are already operating up to $1 million in this bootstrapped phase 2B phenomena. So at least up to $1 million or even a little more would make sense.
Thank you, Dr. Narayanan. Mr. Comstock, award amounts for phase 1 and phase 2?
Currently for phase 2, the NASA award has been $600,000. We're looking this year at increasing that with matching funds, similar to what you heard about from NSF. The amount wouldn't be as high, but we're looking at increasing it to $750 with matching funds.
If I were to be thinking about a statutory amount, would I be thinking about the bootstrapped amount that Mr. Comstock you're referring to, and that Dr. Narayanan was referring to earlier? Doubled number?
Raising the limit through the authority would give us flexibility, and that would be something that would benefit the program. Not sure exactly what number to say, but a higher number would give us that kind of flexibility, where in certain cases, the technology may need additional funds to mature. And for the phase 1s, increasing the amount to adjust for the inflation over the last decade would allow for...
Has the cost of research increased at the rate of inflation, or has it been higher or lower?
I'm not sure exactly. My guess would be that it's probably been higher, but I'm not sure.
Mr. James, the award amount for phase 1, phase 2, or any comments on the prior follow-up questions I asked Mr. Comstock or Dr. Narayanan?
I think response was pretty much like ours. The 150K is really needed for ST. 1 million for the phase 2 is allowed us to, or at least will allow us to add a supplemental. We won't necessarily adopt the 1 million and advertise that to be our maximum. I think each of the agencies manage that a little bit differently, and if you raise the statutory limits, I think it offers for all of us. So I would be in favor of that. 150 and a million would be certainly our, if you ask us numbers from us, those would be our.
Thank you, Mr. James. Ms. Goodnight.
So for NIH, just looking at a little bit of data that we've been crunching, and we spoke to it in our statement, the medians for our phase ones have been running around 137,000 per year, and for phase two about 833 per year. What I also found interesting to look at was break this out by percentiles, and I'm no statistician or mathematician, but I think I can figure this out. So 75% of our awards in phase one were 200,000 or less, and 75% were 1.3 million or less. Where's the other 25% going? This gets back to a word that I heard as a cap, and what we have greatly appreciated is the ability where the science warrants it to exceed an amount, a statutory guideline if it were to stay that way. And if I could just maybe spend 30 seconds or so on three examples. Post 9/11, our whole landscape changed quite dramatically in terms of biodefense. I mean, we'd funded areas of biodefense, but nothing like what we did in post 9/11. And in fact, we looked to the small business community through a very specific agency announcement to say, we need you to help us meet some urgent requirements, developing vaccines, therapeutics, diagnostics in these categories of biodefense agents. And so we issued this announcement. It went out. We made the reviews and the awards within 4 months. It was really rapid on our part, as well as providing a little bit of flexibility on the grant applicant's part with regard to budget. So projects where there's a sense of urgency is certainly an area. Projects that are focusing on the changing of the disease landscape, which I just hinted at. Type 2 diabetes right now is on a really scary rise in children and adolescents. And so we've issued some very targeted announcements that do allow for a couple of $1 million per year, given the clinical science that needs to be carried out. And the third area are projects that have a very high technical risk for a scientific breakthrough and maybe even a paradigm shift. And again, this one's not even clinically related. It was a tabletop synchrotron, and the company developed it. It was a very expensive project, I believe, a couple of $1 million as well. And those kinds of unique situations are where we're exercising the flexibility judiciously and not just saying, okay, everybody come in with a $9 million grant. In fact, our grants management and peer review will look at budgets very carefully. So I just tried to give a sense of where the median is, where the 75th percentile is, and then where the extremes are, and our appreciation for being able to go outside those bounds.
And Ms. Goodnight, just so that I can make sure I'm hearing this properly, did you say $9 million award at NIH under certain appropriate exigent circumstances? Did I hear 9?
So that was, you heard 9 to answer the question, and that was a most extreme example given the multiple years. Now, that's not a $9 million 6-month award.
No, thank you very much, Ms. Goodnight, and I want to assure you that I'm asking you the question from the perspective of, I want you all to continue to do what's right for the technology, the health of America, what is appropriate in terms of generating jobs and developing technology. So the question is asked not from the perspective of reining in an agency that is trying to do the right thing, but from the perspective of, I think we'd all be I think most of us would be more comfortable if the law were aligned with agency activities And I, for one, would just like to see the law perhaps realigned in this reauthorization process to match what you all are actually doing in the real world. Although you're darn close, I think most of you are inside the Beltway, for me to be using that term. But Mr. Caccuitto, the comments from the Department of Defense, please.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. The Department would certainly support such a realignment of the guidelines, but I want to emphasize that the point that Ms. Goodnight just made, the flexibility is absolutely key for us right now, and any reduction in flexibility could have a severe negative impact. In other words, as she just discussed, not all technologies require the same amount of resources to get where they need to be. And there are circumstances, particularly when you're looking at warfighter needs, where we need often to apply additional resources very quickly to get a technology where it needs to be to transition. And that's getting more and more expensive over time because testing and evaluation, the later the stage, you move into testing and evaluation of technologies, the work becomes more and more expensive. And bridging that valley of death that people talk about is not a inexpensive exercise.
And continuing with Dr. Gingri's consent, I'd like the witnesses to comment that as I look across the row of witnesses and the agencies and the missions that you represent, it seems to me that there may be a little bit of either a divide or a statistical distribution that at Department of Defense and at NASA, even though I grew up, thinking in addition to nice wonderful space missions, it's Tang and space blankets and so on, that for your agencies, the SBIR process is a more integral part of your acquisitions process, and perhaps for you, there's less of a factor of spinning off technologies to be the next Google, Genentech, or Lockheed Martin or Fairchild, and that for NSF with respect to nanotech, or NIH in healthcare and biotech, that certainly there are technologic missions that remain technologic missions, but there's a strong component of potential commercialization in the programs that your two agencies run, and that perhaps the Department of Energy might be in an era of transition where energy programs, research programs were run as governmental programs traditionally, and there were energy producers that did some research, but we're living in an environment today where there may be more and more small-scale investment growing into larger entities in the energy business. Does the panel of witnesses want to comment on that observation at all about a potential difference between your agencies and commercialization with respect to SBIR and STTR? Mr. Comstock?
Well, I'll comment. NASA clearly is a mission-driven agency, and we're working very hard to make sure that the investments that we're making through SBIR and STTR are going to address the needs of our missions. However, there's also a very strong focus on making those technologies available for public sector benefit through spinoff and technology transfer. And while Tang, it's a urban myth that Tang came from NASA, it actually didn't.
I understand.
But we will take credit for the space blanket. But there have been many successes. In fact, one from Oregon, Umpqua Research, has water filtration systems developed under NASA SBIR that are being used around the world for clean drinking water. There are many other examples of SBIR technologies that have spun off for other applications. And each year we document about 40 to 50 in our spin-off magazine, and about half of those come from the SBIR STTR program.
What, Mr. Comstock, what you're saying is we do both.
Yes.
But given that NASA, let's just assume that NASA does both and both very, very well. Would you say that your mix might be a little bit different from NIH's mix?
Yes, and our focus is to develop technologies that we need, but in doing that, we look for other applications as well, as opposed to looking for those other applications from the start.
Dr. Narayanan or Ms. Goodnight, do you have any comment on either my conjecture or Mr. Comstock's subsequent comments?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I guess you're describing a bimodal distribution here, and I agree with your assessment. At least from NSF, we are clearly on the technology end of it, and at the same time, we in the SBIR, we like to see them very much, towards the potential commercialization opportunity. Well, the key part I would say here from what your summary of the 5 agencies, as you have heard from us, each of us has the flexibility to operate in this broad SBIR legislation, and that's something I'd like to reiterate that we should keep to provide each agency to tailor its own strategy, if you will.
Let us come back to that flexibility in a moment, because I want to focus on flexibility outside of flexibility of amount. There's lots of different kinds of flexibility. Ms. Goodnight, do you have any further comment on this?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would agree with your conjecture. And that said, I also think it's probably important to highlight that there are opportunities that agencies take advantage of to work together. So what you kind of spelled out were the agencies that use these programs for acquisition reasons and agencies that use the programs. They still are there to meet our mission, but they're really grants agencies who aren't going to be typically the customer at the end of the day. And so there will be, commercial markets outside of the government, whereas DoD is going to buy this sensor on an F-16 that needs to work at this specific temperature, and if there's another use for it, that's great. They're also developing treatments for burn victims, of our soldiers on the field. Those are the same types of technologies that companies are developing for people who burn in their houses or, get burns outside of the field. We've got trans-agency announcements on nanotechnology. We've done some work with NASA on growing cancer cells in space. So there's a little bit of synergy, but I think that you're right. When you're speaking in general or overall, it's the acquisition versus the agencies that use these programs through grants to provide assistance to companies, and it becomes all the more important when we develop things like the pipeline to partnerships to help get those companies into the marketplace where we're not going to be that customer at the end. And
Mr. Caccuitto, I don't mean to leave you out, so let me start a new inquiry with you and proceed from my left to my right, your right to your left. Mr. James, on the prior issue?
Yes, if you don't mind.
Please.
I think you mentioned that you think DOE is in transition, and in some ways it is, because of the way we manage our program, the research areas, the research topics that we form annually, focus on, those are all provided by the 12 programs that I had on my slide that contribute, and the parens was how much they contribute. Now that is all certainly based on the congressional budget request every year, so it all turns out to be mission, the overall DOE mission. Now as that changes, so does the amount of research, either acquisition type research. We have that for our national labs. A lot of our major instrumentation, we do acquire detectors, we acquire new instrumentation for those facilities. Or on the other hand, we have 12 programs that are strictly applied programs, like fossil, like nuclear energy, energy efficiency. Those are all, in order for their mission to be supported by the SBIR program, those technologies have to get out in the marketplace and be widely dispersed. So our transition, our movement from maybe mostly applied to some acquisition is really a function of how the programs are plans, their roadmaps, how they're going to get from where they are to where they want to be. So the SBIR program reflects that directly.
And the only reason for my observation about perhaps DOE being in transition is, at one time I thought of energy in the context of major oil companies or major coal companies, and then as I get around the country, I run across folks who say, I'm going to solve your energy problem by taking the oil in which your potato chips are fried in, and we're going to turn that into something else that's useful. And by the way, I have 3 employees, and I'm an energy company. So and I may be extrapolating way beyond what the data will support, but thank you for that further comment. Mr. Caccuitto, from the DoD perspective, then going across, as Dr. Gingrey stated earlier, the current set aside is 2.5% for SBIR. Would you recommend an increase in that percentage set aside? And this is aside. This is not the administrative cost issue I was asking about earlier. This is the total set aside that generates the $2 to $3 billion for SBIR across the federal government. Would you support an increase from the 2.5%?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I actually don't think I can answer that question for the department.
Ms. Goodnight?
What I can answer is that the program has not increased at the same rate we've seen other programs increase, and we believe that there are a number of issues that need to be addressed prior to considering any kind of an increase when we've seen a large decline in our applications. Right now, the application pool just can't sustain that.
So on the one hand, from a on the one hand, from a ideal program perspective, that perhaps an increase in the set-aside is warranted in NIH's field, but there has been a drop-off in applicants, and that may be due to other causes. What Dr. Gingrey was asking about earlier, what I was asking about in terms of the focus on capital structure, perhaps.
Perhaps.
But that drop-off has perhaps taken away some of the need for an enhanced set-aside.
So I think that there are multiple factors contributing to the drop-off, and incentive opportunities to apply are certainly right up there as well. So, maybe like DoD, I can't really comment particularly strongly, but I will say that right now we don't see that there's there's reason for an increase given the decline in our applications for all of the reasons that I've mentioned in the written statement.
Thank you. Mr. James?
Thank you for the question. I think we've gone on record as saying that we believe that the amount, particularly if the competitive grows the department in any way, Joanne says that will put a real squeeze on our ability to continue to fund high-quality research. Quick increase.
Mr. Comstock?
And if there were an increase, it would require offsets in other areas, and so that would impact ongoing missions, and other things would have to be reduced. And as we heard from Mr. James, the amount that's currently funded we think is about right. So NASA the current level is about appropriate.
That's right. I think no. As I mentioned that, we are integral part of the NSF strategy, and the NSF is trying to make a case for doubling its budget, and if and when that happens, we will double automatically with it. So our position is to help NSF as an agency succeed in its funding, rather than it changes in the percentage.
Well, as Dr. Gingrey referred to in his opening statement, what we're talking about here potentially is something that gets us a lot of bang for the buck, gets the taxpayers, the citizens of the United States, a lot of bang for the buck. And I understand that you all have other agency needs to address and have to be cognizant of if, for example, 2.5% were increased to 3.5%, where that extra percent would be coming from within your own agency. But first of all, from the perspective of putting money into a place where hopefully if we can collect the data to demonstrate it, where the taxpayers and U.S. citizens get a lot of bang for the buck, I mean, that's the right reason to increase the percentage set aside. Would you be less resistant to changing the set aside if your agency budgets were doubled as NIH's was over a period of time, or as NSF's hopefully will be over a forward-looking period of time?
Again, I'm not probably the right person to answer that question at this, for that specific question. I'm sorry.
I mean, you just touched on a really important point that is worth making. We really did sustain a doubling of the SBIR budget during that time that NIH's budget doubled. So if you're going to double NIH's budget, then I guess we would sustain another doubling. that was a joke, Mr. Chairman, but my point is that we have gone through that doubling, and it's not, that really is not the issue. There are issues that the challenges that we've described in the decline of new entrants, the decline of all new applications, and some of the disincentives, or at least trying to get at the reasons for why applicants are not tapping into even the current amount of money that's available. All balanced with sustaining the integrity of the program and keeping it a very merit-based program.
Yes, Mr. James.
I would suggest that before we're talking about increasing the percentage, I would be important for us to improve the efficiency and the effectiveness of the program by perhaps using some of the funds for administrative purposes. I think we all agree we could improve the program if we were allowed, I think, to some of the things that we've talked about. Maybe it might be a little premature to both at the same time.
Well, it's kind of like glaciers. They sit still for a long time, and all of a sudden they gallop, and then they stop again for a while. So if you're going to seize this, if the bus is indeed moving from the station, one might try to seize it and try to manage the gallop as best as one can the next time this one moves. And I'm not saying it will this go round, but the next time this one moves, we may all be retired from public service. So I understand the need to try to consider these factors one by one by one, but I think it's pretty well established that we need to collect better data, both during the period of the grant, but especially afterwards. And although different agencies have different needs, and it's appropriate that you all collect different data, that some form of coordination, perhaps even technical assistance to you all, rather than you all helping somebody else, their database, that might be helpful. So at least the chair of this subcommittee recognizes the need for crucial management functions which can only be paid for with hard dollars, and you all have been taking it out of your budgets thus far. I'm sensitive to the fact that you might need some other money and express authority to do that. But just as you don't want to pit your interagency budgets against each other, I don't want to. I want to assure you that any increases in total, either total amount or percentage and total amount, this chair's goal to not saddle you with tremendous additional administrative burden, allow you to improve the process. Dr. Narayan, I promised you an opportunity to come back to the issue of flexibility in non-award amount related arenas. What kinds of flexibility are we talking about?
It's really, as an example, in trying to help company commercialize, we embarked on what we call a matchmaker program. There's no money involved, where we invite investors and strategic partners, and we show them the kind of portfolio we have, and say, are you interested in us in matching your interest to our interest, our portfolio? And we ask the same thing to grantees. Do you want to be matched? And the intent is good, and we got a program officer on a part-time basis trying to make that kind of connection. And I said the interest level from the investment community is tremendous, but what is limiting us is back to this resources issue, back to this administrative issue. People, we are trying to do this on a part-time basis, and it's effective only to the degree we can make time available to make that happen. But whenever I gave Bill Ben a little CD of like the awards we have in the last 6 years, that's like what I use like a calling card when I call on an investor, and they are very pleased to see the kinds of portfolio companies we have, and they want to know more about them. And the key part we are trying to say is you can find out about these companies on the web because all the data are public, abstracts, etc. But what we are willing to provide with the permission of the company is a little more of the company know-how which we have gathered, because each program manager is managing that company over at least 3-4 years basis, or 2-3 year basis. So they know about the company, they know about their the timeline, whether they meet the timeline. So there is knowledge of the company, knowledge of the technologies, which we are willing to share with the investor, with the permission of the company. And that's the kind of thing we'd like to do more of. That's really what I was alluding to.
Thank you, Dr. Narayan. Mr. Comstock, any comments about flexibility for SBIR and STTR outside of flexibility as to award amounts?
Well, I think, as everybody said, flexibility can be very important, and as you pointed out, Mr. Chairman, there are differences among the different agencies on what we focus on, and so maintaining the flexibility in terms of the topic definition and how we apply those investments among the agencies would be very beneficial to preserve. When Dr. Narayan was talking, I was thinking of a new program that NASA has started on called Tech Fusion, where there's been a trend with many large companies where they are investing less in R&D and looking to smaller businesses as being sources of innovation. And we're trying to make that connection through our Tech Fusion activity, where we're matching large companies with the businesses that are funded by SBIR and STTR. And we're actually doing that through reimbursable dollars, where we charge the large businesses to essentially provide that service. And if we had flexibility to use some of the program funds, it might allow us to do more of those kinds of activities.
James? flexibility issues. Also, I want to throw out this, does anyone advocate flexibility to skip phase one and go? James?
I don't really advocate that. I hadn't thought of that. I think that the big success story of the program across many agencies, 5 a certain sure, but it's across all the R&D agencies. All manage their programs with an umbrella that has been flexible, and I think why it succeeded is because we all have different needs. Agencies, some of us are not. I think the committee should be very careful about changing the rules to make them less flexible.
Sure. So I think flexibility results in agencies making enhancements to the program. We don't just ask to be flexible for, exercise sake. And those program enhancements, at least for our agency, have resulted from listening to the small business research community. The dollars aside, some of the other areas that we've been flexible in, for example, in our Phase 1, Phase 2 fast track and our Phase 2 competing renewal. So getting back to making enhancements based on challenges that the applicants are facing. Some of our applicants are experiencing challenges regarding the issue that you just alluded to, in fact, the requirement to receive a Phase 1 award before consideration for Phase 2. And I say that because those companies have actually carried out the feasibility studies in their laboratories using non-SBIR dollars. So they're in a position to keep that whole technological innovation life cycle running if they were permitted to start at Phase 2. We have the fast track, and that's helpful, but it's most helpful in terms of it dealing with the gaps between Phase 1 and 2. It really does, when you think about applicants facing a 6 to 9 month wait period from the time that they apply to receiving the award, and then this additional 6 months to do the project, they've perhaps lost about a year to a year and a half of time when they were in a position to keep the R&D going to then commercialize it. So that's one area. The other is we've most recently seen this in STTR where changes between the programs are a challenge. So they may start in a Phase 1 STTR, and it's not that they lose their research institution partner, but the technology transfers over to the small business. The small business starts to hire and maybe even manufacture the product under development. But they can, and so the requisite 30% effort in an STTR research institution partner is no longer needed. However, once they start in the STTR program, they have to stay with that for the second phase. And my point is that in certain cases, it makes perfect sense for everything to transition over to the using the SBIR program, where maybe the research institution partner has a 5% level of effort. But that's a challenge right now because it's not doable.
Thank you very much. If there are no, Dr. Narayanan.
Just triggered by comments by Ms. Goodnight on the SBIR, STTR flexibility between them. Right now it's set as a 2 separate programs and 2 separate buckets of money, if you will. And if there is some flexibility within some range instead of exact, so looking at the 2.8% and having some flexibility within the range, that would allow an agency like NSF to award more in one or less in one, depending on the number of proposals we receive. Because for us right now, we have one solicitation which is common for both. So we receive SBIR, STTR together. And depending on the number of proposals in one, if we could have a little more flexibility to make more awards, I think that would help us.
Thank you all very much. Since the witnesses were, in some terms of the word, trapped here, I gave them forewarning before the hearing started that we were likely to be on a lengthy march through a series of questions that I knew I had, and I wasn't sure what other questions other members of the subcommittee would have. I want to express appreciation to minority members and minority staff. I think it's because of a solid working relationship that we have relatively similar inquiries to make, and we're looking into, I think, the appropriate issues. It is the proper time to draw a hearing to a close when you have worn out the interns and the lobbyists in the room, and it's time for us to go. But I want to thank you all for being here for a very, very enlightening hearing. It is the chair's intention to continue this series of hearings in order that we take care of the seed corn of our economy and our future technology very, very well. There are many, many great strengths to democracy. One of our challenges is that there may be a little bit of a bias toward current consumption as opposed to making those small investments in the future which wind up paying great dividends. And the SBIR and STTR programs are two programs that I think are big bang for the buck and pay off dividends for the long term. Thank you for providing many, many ideas and facts for our consideration. If there is no objection, the record will remain open for additional statements from the members and answers in writing to any follow-up questions members of the committee may ask of the witnesses. Without objection, so ordered. The hearing is now adjourned. Thank you all very, very much.